Part 4, Propositions 61 to 65 of the Ethics by Spinoza. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by OK. The Ethics by Benedict de Spinoza, translated by R.H.M. Elways. Part 4, Propositions 61 to 65. Proposition 61. Desire which springs from reason cannot be excessive. Proof. Desire, definition of the emotions 1, considered absolutely, is the actual essence of man, in so far as it is conceived as in any way determined to a particular activity by some given modification of itself. Hence desire, which arises from reason, that is, Part 3, Proposition 3, which is engendered in us in so far as we act, is the actual essence or nature of man, in so far as it is conceived as determined to such activities as are adequately conceived through man's essence only. Part 3, Definition 2. Now, if such desire could be excessive, human nature, considered in itself alone, would be able to exceed itself, or would be able to do more than it can, a manifest contradiction. Therefore such desire cannot be excessive. Quod erat demonstrandum. Proposition 62. In so far as the mind conceives a thing under the dictates of reason, it is affected equally, whether the idea be of a thing future, past, or present. Proof. Whatsoever the mind conceives under the guidance of reason, it conceives under the form of eternity or necessity, Part 2, Proposition 44, Corollary 2, and is therefore affected with the same certitude, Part 2, Proposition 43, and note. Wherefore, whether the thing be present, past, or future, the mind conceives it under the same necessity, and is affected with the same certitude. And whether the idea be of something present, past, or future, it will in all cases be equally true, Part 2, Proposition 41. That is, it will always possess the same properties of an adequate idea, Part 2, Definition 4. Therefore, in so far as the mind conceives things under the dictates of reason, it is affected by the same manner whether the idea be of a thing future, past, or present. Quod erat demonstrandum. Note. If we could possess an adequate knowledge of the duration of things, and could determine by reason their periods of existence, we should contemplate things future with the same emotion as things present, and the mind would desire, as though it were present, the good which it conceived as future. Consequently, it would necessarily neglect a lesser good in the present for the sake of a greater good in the future, and would in no way desire that which is good in the present, but a source of evil in the future, as we shall presently show. However, we can have a very inadequate knowledge of the duration of things, Part 2, Proposition 31, and the periods of their existence, Part 2, Proposition 44, note, we can only determine by imagination, which is not so powerfully affected by the future as by the present. Hence, such true knowledge of good and evil as we possess is merely abstract or general, and the judgment which we pass on the order of things and the connection of causes with a view to determining what is good or bad for us in the present is rather imaginary than real. Therefore, it is nothing wonderful if the desire arising from such knowledge of good and evil, in so far as it looks on into the future, be more readily checked than the desire of things which are agreeable in the present time. See Part 4, Proposition 16. Proposition 63. He who is led by fear and does good in order to escape evil is not led by reason. Proof. All the emotions which are attributable to the mind as active, or in other words, to reason, are emotions of pleasure and desire, Part 3, Proposition 59. Therefore, he who is led by fear and does good in order to escape evil is not led by reason. Q.E.D. Note: superstitious persons, who know better how to rail at vice than how to teach virtue, and who strive not to guide men by reason, but so to restrain them that they would rather escape evil than love virtue, have no other aim but to make others as wretched as themselves, wherefore it is nothing wonderful if they be generally troublesome and odious to their fellow men. Corollary. Under desire which springs from reason, we seek good directly, and shun evil indirectly. Proof. Desire which springs from reason can only spring from a pleasurable emotion, wherein the mind is not passive, Part 3, Proposition 59. In other words, from a pleasure which cannot be excessive, Part 4, Proposition 61, and not from pain, wherefore this desire springs from the knowledge of good, not of evil, Part 4, Proposition 8. Hence, under the guidance of reason, we seek good directly, and only by implication shun evil. Q.E.D. Note: this corollary may be illustrated by the example of a sick and a healthy man. The sick man, through fear of death, eats what he naturally shrinks from, but the healthy man takes pleasure in his food, and thus gets a better enjoyment out of life than if he were in fear of death, and desired directly to avoid it. So a judge who condemns a criminal to death, not from hatred or anger, but from love of the public well-being, is guided solely by reason. Proposition 64. The knowledge of evil is an inadequate knowledge. Proof. The knowledge of evil, Part 4, Proposition 8, is pain, in so far as we are conscious thereof. Now, pain is the transition to a lesser perfection, definition of the emotions 3, and therefore cannot be understood through man's nature, Part 3, Proposition 6 and 7. Therefore it is a passive state, Part 3, Definition 2, which, by Part 3, Proposition 3, depends on inadequate ideas. Consequently, the knowledge thereof, Part 2, Proposition 29, namely the knowledge of evil, is inadequate. Q.E.D. Corollary. Hence it follows that if the human mind possessed only adequate ideas, it would form no conception of evil. Proposition 65. Under the guidance of reason, we should pursue the greater of two goods and the lesser of two evils. Proof. A good which prevents our enjoyment of a greater good is in reality an evil, for we apply the terms good and bad to things in so far as we compare them one with another. See preface to this part. Therefore, evil is in reality a lesser good. Hence, under the guidance of reason, we seek or pursue only the greater good and the lesser evil. Q.E.D. Corollary. We may, under the guidance of reason, pursue the lesser evil as though it were the greater good, and we may shun the lesser good, which would be the cause of the greater evil. For the evil which is here called the lesser is really good, and the lesser good is really evil. Wherefore we may seek the former and shun the latter. Q.E.D. End of Part 4, Propositions 61 to 65. Recording by OK.